Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Juan Cotto touching bases with you from your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio .world, right on the corner of Rainier Avenue and Ferdinand, on these streets back there, which I used to run around on as a kid. So excited to be here. I'm still wearing my Sounders stuff. I'm sure that this will air. This was taped at the point that the Sounders just defeated Messi and the Inter Miami, what they call themselves, Inter Miami, for the league's championship. I'm into contrived events. I love the MLS. We need a variety of different trophies to win, and Brian Schmetzer has led the Sounders, and it was an unbelievable night. And as people may know, I'm a massive soccer fan, for so long. But I did not attend the game. I was down at the Puyallup Fair with my daughter, who loves Meghan Trainor. We were down there. Thank you very much. We were listening to Meghan Trainor, and I'm one of those guys, I guess, that represents the dudes who are all about that bass. Honey, Sarah Cotto. Never mind. The lyrics are outstanding. What a great, energetic concert. I will never skip something. My daughter said, "Daddy, I want to go to this concert," and that was the most fun. But for all of us Sounders fans, there she is. She's all about that bass, all that bass. Me too. I've had a great time. There's so many songs that she sings that I knew, so it was really exciting. And today we are here on Rainier Avenue Radio, and I'm very excited to, first of all, get to meet this young lady who is running for the Seattle City Council. And she had I guess it was a surprise in the primary. She may have thought, with the work that she's done, that, hey, this is what I expected. Now we're going to hear about that. But Dionne Foster, welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. Dionne, you, what a surprise, as they say in Hamilton, as Alexander Hamilton, when he saw Aaron Burr, you're creating kind of a stir. That was congratulations to you on the primary. Were you surprised?
Yeah, and I love that you got a Hamilton quote in there right off the bat. I love Hamilton. I was thrilled. I was surprised. I was hoping that we would come out strong, but you never know when you're running for office. You kind of get out and do the work, talk to people, knock on doors, try to communicate as much as you can. But I was really thrilled with the results.
You had to be. And tell us, I asked this to Katie Wilson last week, and I'm going to ask the same thing of you. I remember the hockey player Buzz Schneider and 1980 Winter Olympics. I don't think you were even born, but they won the Olympic gold medal. They became national celebrities overnight. And Al Michaels asked him, "Oh, my goodness, how has your life changed?" And Buzz Schneider said, "It's just amazing. The phone never stops ringing." I mean, it was such a change in their lifestyle. And I'm wondering, how has your life changed? I mean, people saw your name and saw that you were running, but all of a sudden, after the primary here in this local area of Seattle, your name has definitely become one that people are familiar with. And I'm sure your life for the last several weeks since the primary has changed.
Yeah, that's such a great question. In some ways it's changed, and in some ways it hasn't. So one way that it's changed, I went out, I took my son you're talking about sports, and I might not be able to follow you on the hockey metaphors. I'll try, but I do love basketball. So I'm a huge Storm fan.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a little bit of time, so I was able to take my son to the basketball game. And I was walking and somebody was like, "Hey." I was like, so it's really fun. It's really fun to be out and about, and people recognize me, or I've had a lot of people come up to me and say, "Hey, I voted for you," or like, "Hey, are you Dionne?" Or and that's really thrilling, because it's another way to connect with people.
Who are you? Who is? I mean, I number one, I love your name. I grew up in an era. My mother introduced us to music, and she played Dionne Warwick throughout the house. So we got "Say a Little Prayer for You." Mm-hmm. We grew up with "Do You Know the Way to San Jose?" Mm-hmm. And I always felt that Dionne Warwick had a voice of an angel. The name is spelled differently, But nevertheless, because yours is an apostrophe, right? It's the same.
I'm named after Dionne Warwick.
Is that right?
I
Wow.
was like, no, it's the same. Yeah. And actually, a funny side story is I was almost named Danielle. And I was just literally talking to a friend about this last night. I was like, do you think my life would be different if I had a different name? So my mom wanted to name me Dionne. My dad wanted to name me Danielle. And here I am.
That's a pretty cool story. So you are named after Dionne Warwick. That's awesome. I love Dionne Warwick's music. And like I said, like Karen Carpenter, they both had voices of angels.
Yeah, I can't sing, so don't. I hope that's not the lead in.
Well, I will. I will spare you that. I will also spare you from hearing me sing. But tell us a little about your upbringing and where you're from, and how you ended up in Seattle.
Yeah, that's great. So you talked about Hamilton a little bit. I actually grew up in Yorktown, Virginia. So Battle of Yorktown. Yes. And my family has lived there for generations. So, I mean, my mom was married in the church at the end of the street where she grew up. And my great-grandparents lived on that same street. So kind of a very tight-knit community that I was raised in. My mom was she was in the military, and then she got out. She was a single parent. She became a teacher and just raised us with our cousins and grandparents. And definitely, I would say, raised us with this ethos of like giving to the community and showing up for people and caring for people. She taught special ed for a little while, and we didn't always have a lot, but we would always like give what we had or try to give back what we had. So that was definitely a big part of the like ethos in my family and in our household, which I'm really proud of. And I hope to get to pass that on to my son as he grows up. And, we struggled to make ends meet when I was a kid. We moved a couple of times. I got my first job on my 16th birthday. Actually, there's a side story to my first job, but it's maybe a longer story than you want to hear. But I got my first job on my 16th birthday, and I started contributing to my family, paying bills, helping out around the house, doing things like that. I had 2 jobs by the time I graduated high school. Went to college in Northern Virginia.
Where'd you go?
George Mason University.
Oh, we've heard of it. We know George Mason.
Yeah, go ahead.
I cheated. My wife, Sarah, she's from Virginia.
Oh yeah, we talked about this. Yeah, I forgot about that. So I went to George Mason University, which actually it's interesting because they were involved in some research studies here in South Seattle and Rainier Beach, which was kind of an interesting connection back to my alma mater.
What was your degree in?
Sociology is my undergraduate degree, and then I have a minor in women's studies and administration of justice. So I went to school there, which is fantastic. A big different experience growing up in a small town, going to college outside of DC, which was great. And I graduated, and when I graduated, I went to work for the ACLU in Connecticut, which was fantastic. Worked as a field organizer there, and I learned a lot of how to. I actually think you learn a lot in service jobs. I owe a lot of I think, being able to connect with people to some of that work that I did in high school, honestly. But, grew up had the job at the ACLU as a field organizer, working on gender identity and LGBTQ protections. We worked on some anti-death penalty work, which was really important to me. It was stuff I worked on when I was in college as well. And long story short, when I was leaving that job, I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I had never been to the West Coast, the Pacific Northwest. And I knew I wanted to do something different. I made a list of cities that I could move to, and Seattle was at the top of that list. And I was fortunate that I was able to move here with a little bit of savings and figure it out once I got here. And I just fallen in love with the city, and it's just it's where I'm raising my family. And
when did you get here?
I moved here in 2011.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're a Seattleite now.
Yeah, it's definitely home for me. It's definitely home for me.
Yeah, I ran for the state legislature in 1998.
Yeah.
And I've run a couple of times since then. I'll say this: it was so much easier to run when I was single. 1998, I was a single guy, and you come home and your house is to yourself. You can meditate and get ready. Tell me the juxtaposition of running for office as a parent.
Yeah, it's kind of wonderful. It's unique. So I'll backtrack and say over the years, I've gotten to support in various ways other people who are running for office. And it's always been important to me that we have representation that's diverse, women, people of color, Black folks in office, parents. And it was the biggest part of my decision, or maybe the most challenging part of my decision to run for office, was this question of what might this experience be like for my child, who I just think the world of. And
how old is he?
He's 12.
12. Okay,
Yeah.
so he's aware. He's aware. Just start school this week.
That's yeah. So aware is one way to put it. But he, so I was like, okay, well, I want to make sure that I'm talking to him, because I know this is going to impact him as well. And I sat down with him and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about running for office. And he understands what running for office is in a way. Like, we actually, every year we vote together. So I take out my ballot and I talk to him about it ever since he was maybe 5 or 6. And he's seen people who are our friends run for office. So he has some concept of it. And I said, I'm thinking about this. And he was like, okay. And I was like, well, I might be really busy. I might be gone a lot. I might And he was like, okay, that's fine. And I can't remember his exact wording. I thought he said to me, will I get street cred? and I retold this story the other day, and he's like, that's not what I said. So I've got to actually go back to him and get his words right, because that's important to him. But he was really proud of me. And he was kind of like, what impact is this going to have on my life? And he comes to events with me sometimes. He's come to a lot of the picnics and barbecues and things like that. And so I would say it's been great. And I'm really fortunate to have a great network here of other parents and of friends of his and family friends. And so he gets to hang out and spend a lot of time with folks when I'm out doorbelling or coming to things that, he doesn't want to go to. I will say the parades has been, that's been great. That's the fun part of it. We've made some great memories as a family, honestly, through this campaign, things that I'll carry with me.
She is Dionne Foster, and she is here with us on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. She is running for the Seattle City Council. I believe it is District 9, which is all citywide. And she lives down here in the south end of Seattle, which gives her a little bit of cred with us down here, although this is a challenging race. You're somewhat new to Seattle, yet you've been here a while. Tell us about I just want to share with you one thing too. I remember in 2016, we're having Jonathan Rosenblum here in pretty soon, and he when I ran for the appointment for the Washington State Senate in the 37th district. This was back in 2016. When Pramila got elected to Congress, and so we had a group of candidates, and I was going for that position, and it was amazing. My son at the time, Clemente, he was 9, and I remember when I came home and I was not successful, and he just came to me and he said, "Dad, I'm so glad you lost." And at that time, I mean, in the legislature, they were dealing with issues around McCleary and some of the education stuff. I mean, and the legislative session went well beyond. And he was just like, "Dad, I'm just so glad you didn't win." And that there's a bittersweetness to that. So I hope you guys are finding a connection that is positive through this whole experience. Once again, I just wanted to share that with you, because I think running as a parent is such an interesting challenge, and it sounds like you're balancing it well, and it sounds like he's having a good experience with it. Dionne, tell us, what are you learning about running throughout the city?
Yeah,
it's a big place, isn't it?
It is. Well, oh gosh, there's so many things. One, it's a great way to kind of rediscover or reconnect with different places, which I really love. And I would say my main theme is there is so much that unites our city, that neighbors share all around the city, whether that's here in the South End, whether that's in West Seattle, Central, or North Seattle. I often find very similar themes from folks, and so I think that's something I think about, is just how united we are as a city. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but I will say that one of the things that I really love is just getting to your point around local politics and the challenges. It's really how wonderful people are. And when you knock on somebody's door, or where you're standing at a farmer's market, and somebody will be about to walk by, and I'll say, "I'm running for city council," and they'll slow their step and go, "Oh, oh, okay, yeah, I do. I'm interested in engaging." And I think we have such an amazing and engaged population here in Seattle, and people who are curious and progressive and, and want to make sure that we are a place that everyone can live and thrive. And I think that's fantastic. So, all around the city, I hear similar issues. I hear, affordability coming up for folks, cost of living challenges, all around the city. I hear, and especially with affordability, connections with housing is incredibly important. I hear a lot about, when I'm out, actually, people will go, "Oh, it's actually you." And they'll look at the flyer. "Oh, wait, that's you." And there is really something I think about, especially in this moment in time, wanting to be able to connect with the people who are representing you or who are seeking to represent you, whether that's, like I mentioned, somebody recognizing me at a basketball game, or whether that's, when I'm knocking on somebody's door. I think there is a real hunger from people to feel and be connected to their elected officials, because local politics is really, it's that first place of engagement, right? City Hall is the closest to you of all your local government. And I think it's really exciting to see people's interest.
You spoke in terms of themes. Tell us some of the themes. I mean, if I'm in Rainier Beach, or if I'm up on Beacon Hill, what are some of the themes that are similar from someone up in Ravenna or Lake City or Ballard? Can you share what are some of the similarities?
Yeah, so I'll go back to the affordability, and it looks different, depending on who you're talking to. But I would say sometimes I'm talking to working class people who are like, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to stay in the city. Or sometimes I'm talking to, I had a great conversation in a park with somebody who I think was more of a middle class or upper middle class person. And he was like, I'm realizing we have to do more on housing because I want my kids' teachers to be able to live here. Right. And so I think there's just a real shared theme around that. When I'm here, in Rainier Beach, and you mentioned up on Beacon Hill too, I definitely hear a lot of themes around not just public safety, but traffic safety as well. When I'm talking to folks, if they're live here or like live near where I live, we think a lot about the traffic safety on Rainier. And we know we need to keep working on that. I'm really excited about the investments that SDOT has done a little bit further south with the median lanes that have been put in. I'll tell you a personal story about that too. Actually, that's right by where, it's not too far away from where I had a car accident, actually. So anyways, I think that, that traffic safety and public safety, people want to see real action on homelessness. It's one part of the housing puzzle, but making sure that we are bringing neighbors inside, and, themes around talking about additional shelter capacity. Those things seem to really resonate with a lot of people around the city.
I'm going to make the assumption, and I'm going to allow you to answer the assumption that and this is a question I asked, and I thought it was really Roy O'Sullivan, who ran for city attorney. He did not make it out of the primary, but he lives down here in Rainier Avenue. He lives out here in Columbia City, and he's one of our guys who always is willing to come on Rainier Avenue Radio. And I just love talking politics with Roy. But I asked him directly. I said, there are those in our community that define themselves as progressives. And it was conventional wisdom at one time when you looked at the 9 city council seats when they were all citywide. I think that was probably the time before you got here. You had to run citywide. The conventional wisdom was it was really difficult for quote unquote progressives to run citywide. Then all of a sudden, you started to see some victories. Teresa Mosqueda had a big victory a few years ago, and then you saw the mayor in particular. He was trying to work a little bit of a coalition. He got some, I guess, people who would be on the opposite side of the spectrum. Although in Seattle, the spectrum, is how you define it. But I look at you, and I guess we can make the assumption that you're progressive. Rory flat out said, "Hey, Juan, I'm a progressive." I know that in one of her mailers, Sarah Nelson said, she's got progressive values. It is the electorate starting to lean that way, and obviously the success of the ladies Alexis Mercedes Rink. And certainly in the primary, progressives did very well, or self-titled progressives. And I was wondering, what do you think? First of all, do you define yourself in that progressive area? And second of all, what do you think has created this shift in the electorate?
Great question. Okay. Try to tackle all of it. So I do identify as a progressive, and I think for me it's more about leading with my values and also just being clear about what that means to me. So I don't know whether I think people are responding to that label or that title. I've always felt like that's if you've only got 20 seconds to talk to somebody,
Right.
it's a fast way to sort of start the conversation. But I think more people are responding to, we have really big challenges that we need to tackle. And I think often when I'm chatting with folks, I'll give you an example that's coming up for me actually in a second. Often when I'm chatting with folks and I'll say, I really want to make sure that we are making progress on housing. I care really deeply about ensuring that this is a city where I want my son to be able to afford to stay here, right? This is his home, and I want it to be able to be his home. I want to make sure that we are bringing people inside and making progress on our shelter capacity. I want to make sure that we have the new care department, right? I want to make sure that we have that department adequately staffed, able to respond effectively. And I think that's what people are responding to. If from the conversations that I'm having with people, when you're able to sort of chat with somebody for a few minutes, I think that's what people want and what people are leaning into in this moment. So I'm not sure how much of it is a label or the moment or something else.
Let's dig down at it from just a policy perspective. Tell me, on the Seattle City Council, what can a city council member do to influence the affordability issue?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of things. So for housing, the city has the comprehensive plan, obviously. They're going to be done with part 1 of the comprehensive plan this year. But if I'm elected, I'll have the opportunity to work on part 2 of the comprehensive plan. So you can sort of think of it as like the boundaries will be drawn, but then we'll have the ability to influence what goes within those boundaries in terms of density. So I think that's part of the solution. I'll say part of the solution for affordability.
Is there anything you currently in part 1 that you like, or anything in part 1 that you're kind of like, oh boy, we need to take a look at this?
I'm excited. I think that there's going to be a comp plan hearing coming up in a couple of days on whether or not we add more neighborhood centers. I think that is exciting. Like we have to protect the neighborhood centers that we have, but we're a city of 815-ish thousand people at this point in time. And and growing. And we're projected to be one of the cities that's the most sort of climate resilient. And I think we'll continue to grow. And I'm really deeply concerned about making sure that we have enough housing stock to keep pace with the growth that we have and to grow in a way that is sustainable. So I'd like to make sure that we are actually doing a little bit more in the comprehensive plan there. I'm excited about, and when I talk to people, about kind of commercial affordability, I'm really excited about, just had a little drawing a blank moment, corner stores. Sometimes there's a very simple word and it just escapes you for a little second. But I think that's a great way to promote more walkable neighborhoods and small businesses. I think that's really exciting. And then in part 2 of the comprehensive plan, I think it's going to be about making sure that we are doing enough to incentivize growth in those centers and really build. We're here in Columbia City, really build places where people can afford to live and walk, have access to the bus and the train.
She is Dionne Foster. She is running for Seattle City Council in District 9. She is stopping by to see us on Juan on Rainier. It's Rainier Avenue right behind us, from the historic Columbia City Theater on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio Out World. Daniel, where are we in terms of time? We have 4 minutes. Here we go. I'm going to ask you this question now, and then we'll come back and get into it in the break. I think for every politician and everyone who decides to run for office, especially when you're running against an incumbent, something triggers you to run. What was the trigger moment? What was the last straw when you said, I'm going to run against not only an incumbent, but the president of the Seattle City Council? What was that moment?
I don't know if I had one singular moment. So I'll say for me, like I said before, I've worked in City Hall before. I've worked in philanthropy at Seattle Foundation as executive director of a nonprofit. And I love our city so much. And I've always been somebody who, going back to the way I was raised, just believes in trying to contribute and support and make the city like a healthy, amazing place to live. And I've tried to make that sort of just something I do no matter where I go, no matter what work I'm doing, right? And I was at a personal point for myself where I was going, okay, what feels right to do next? The election had just happened last fall, which was obviously, we had the results at the federal level. And I think as a person, you kind of reflect and go, what's my commitment? What do I want to do? And how can I sort of be of the highest and best use to my community? And I think that was the seed for me to think about, maybe I should run for office, and like I said, I'd supported or had other friends who'd run for office before. So I would say that was a bit of the sort of like reflection period for me. And, knowing that the city is, increasingly unaffordable, knowing how that's impacted my family personally, is definitely a factor. There were other things where I felt like I was seeing the city council, take up items that I felt like were not going to move us in the direction that we needed to go as a city, that were not really like core and what's the word I want to say here, that we're not just explicitly like focused on our biggest challenges. And I think there was a sense of frustration for me.
Give me an example. What were they taking on that was kind of like, man, we need to examine this?
Yeah, I mean, sure. So I would say, a few years ago, there was the potential rollback of the minimum wage standards for gig workers, for Uber and Lyft drivers. That was one example. More recently, we've seen the council take up the potential of rolling back our ethics standards as a city. And so those are two examples of things where, and obviously the ethics example was after I decided to run for office, but, things where I think we could have seen more action on the comprehensive plan or other items that, the council could have taken up during that time.
And that was an interesting one. And Kathy Moore, I think, was the one that brought that up. And then she just decided to step down from the council, which I thought was really interesting. And I was wondering if that was something that happened to do with that, but only she would know.
Yeah.
Tell us what do you believe in the primary worked, whatever it is. I think that there's a lot of people who would like to capture that in a bottle. What was it? I've known Councilmember Nelson for quite some time, and I know the effort that she puts into these things and the reputation that she has. But I was surprised. Yeah. Tell me what worked for you.
Yeah, I don't know if we can bottle it. Although I would have a different ideas there. But I would say I think what worked was direct voter contact, going out and talking to people. I think being focused and clear about who I am as a person. My both I often say the sort of personal and professional experience to do the job. I'm somebody who, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I became a homeowner because I got down payment assistance. And so I know exactly what it's like to benefit from these investments that we can make to keep people here in the city. And so I think connecting with people directly, being clear about my experience, and then, having a vision for the city that I want us all to be able to live in.
She is Dionne Foster. She is with us on Juan on Rainier on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We're going to take a 3-minute break, and then we're going to come back and hear more from this District 9 Seattle City Council candidate who got the most votes last month in the primary on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
I'm Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not hearing men compare women to residential real estate, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Are your kids eligible for or enrolled in Apple Health Medicaid insurance? Bring them to a free dental clinic in Skyway this fall. Public Health Seattle and King County is hosting free dental clinics for kids 12 and under at the Skyway Resource Center one Saturday per month, now until December. Visit kingcounty.gov/ABCD for more information. Again, that's kingcounty.gov/ABCD for free dental clinics for kids.
Mga kaibigan, ito po si Kuya Bert Kawili.
And this is Miles Salvador from Australia.
And I'm Norb Kawili, also known as Norbcam.
Kung gusto niyo po ang latest news and events from the Philippines at yung local Filipino community, Phil-Am Radio po.
We play Filipino music and interview guests from all around the world.
And I'll keep you updated on the latest Seahawks and sports news.
Kaya always tune in, Phil-Am Radio every Tuesday, 1 to 2:30 p.m. Pacific Time on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
And in YouTube and Facebook. Salamat po.
What's going on, world? It's your boy OG Mambo.
And your guy D Money. Join us along with Pint Size Patron and ID Yourself.
Here on Fresh Juice at Rainier Avenue Radio.
Every Wednesday hump day from 9 to 11 Pacific.
Get exclusive interviews from your favorite artists, all the hottest music, and updates on what we got going on in the world.
That's every Wednesday, 9 to 11 p.m. on Seattle's Rainier Avenue Radio. Sediment cleanup of the lower Duwamish River has begun. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the members of the lower Duwamish Waterway Group, which includes King County, the City of Seattle, and Boeing, have begun sediment cleanup of the lower Duwamish Waterfalls Superfund site. This important environmental project will address sediment pollution and help restore the health of the Duwamish River. Starting on the waterway's upper reach, construction activities extend from the South 102nd Street Bridge down straight to the Duwamish Waterway Park. Over the next 3 years, in-water activities will occur from October to February, ending in February 2027. Visit ldwg.org to learn about the upper reach cleanup and sign up for email updates.
You know you can't get enough of Rainier Avenue Radio.
We are back on your community I've messed up my golf swing. I got some biceps again. Actually, the guy that the character, the guy took the character of my if I can brag to myself at this age, I want to probably want to brag about anything I get in terms of that in my diet and exercise. But the other guy said, "Oh man, I'm trying you with some guns, man. You got some guns there." I was like, and my daughter was like, "Yeah, my dad's a big fat guy." She's such a doll. I love that girl. Araceli and I at the Meghan Trainor concert Sunday night. I think when this is being recorded, this will be well long after, but it'll be a great memory when I'm watching this. She's such a sweetie. She's going to the 7th grade at St. Joseph's School on Capitol Hill. I'm so excited for her. And I say that because we tell the story of our kids on Rainier Avenue Radio. And Saturday at 11:30, we have the kickoff of the Metro League season. And we have a barn burner. And I don't get into state rankings. I don't get into to national championships and all this high-level high school football. You know what I get into, Daniel? I love neighborhood battles. And we have the Franklin Quakers taking on the Garfield Bulldogs. No bigger battle in Southeast Seattle. No bigger battle in the city of Seattle. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. We are going to be there. I'm going to be doing the pregame show at 11:30. And this is a game that is completely one that you would need to have a pregame show, and I'm going to be there. Tony B's going to be there. I believe the producer to the stars, Daniel Bellis, is going to be there, and Seahawk legend Edwin Bailey, and of course the great Rick Dupree will be calling the game. This is going to be out at Southwest Athletic Community Complex, and I'll tell you what, the rivalry, the excitement, the passion of those two schools. Hey, if you like high school football, come out and take a look, but you can turn it on right here on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. I think Garfield is ranked 19th in the WIAA rankings. But when these two teams get together, throw out all the rankings, throw out everything, because we're going to see two communities come together, all in good fun and spirit. And it's going to be a fun time over there. A game so big that we have to play it in West Seattle. And that's obviously because Memorial Stadium is out. Then also that's a segue into the WIAA Primetime. WIAA Primetime, a show that Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, not the Athletic Association, it's the Activities Association. And they are located in Renton, and Mick and I sit down and we discuss issues impacting our kids in high school athletics. We do that live Tuesdays at 3 p.m. and we will be on here. And Mick is very excited. I had a chance to talk with him this morning, and he's ready to go. I think the first thing that we're going to have in our subject is with the Mariners in the World Series, how is that going to impact high school athletics? Hopefully, Mick, I am right on that. That prediction. Of course, after their most recent road trips, I'm a little nervous about it, but we will see. But there's going to be plenty of talk about. There are plenty of issues to talk about in the activities that our kids participate in, and we are thankful for the professionals of the WIAA to help our kids and to mold our kids and allow them to come take their rightful place in society through these activities. Dionne, does your son play any sports?
Yes, we're. It's funny that you ask. We are a non-traditional sports family, is what I would say. So he plays roller derby.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How's he like? How do you get into that?
Oh, it's so cool. You know, he had a friend that was doing it. And I think I was talking to her mom and was like, what is this? And, they had these like open practices. So we went to go check it out one year, and I love it. I love it. It is have you ever been to a
I
roller
have
derby?
been to. I went to it was the Rat City Roller.
Yeah. So it's not that intense when you're in middle school.
That's a great description.
It's not quite there yet. Although, if he decides to keep playing, it does get up to that level. But it's really great. It's a great sport. They've got it kind of set up so, when you're young, there's very low or no contact, and then it kind of slowly goes up in contact through the years as you stay in. But it's a great culture is what we love about it as a family.
There's a little bit of physicality to that too.
There definitely is, but I'll always say what happens is they'll sort of do they might bump somebody or whatever, and then it just like the culture of the league is that you like pick the person back up, and it's just a great sport to learn both. I think competitiveness and sportsmanship, whatever. Like it just, we love it, and we get to kind of go around the city playing other teams and stuff like that.
I coached high school football for 18 years here in Seattle, and I went to a Rat City Roller Girls game. I was like, wait a minute, those girls are gonna kill themselves out there.
Oh,
that's illegal. That's not fair.
It's for real. And the athleticism, I will say.
Anything on skates.
You're on skates. And I forget what it's called. My kids can be so bad, but you jump over somebody else's leg when their leg is out, and then you have to land, right? Like on roller skates. It's super impressive. So we love that.
Going from that, let's transition. And obviously in the city of Seattle, and I think in most urban municipalities, Dionne, we have seen issues in terms of what the modern police force needs to be. And I think there's times where we have been good in Seattle, and then obviously there's been times where we have really struggled with it. We've struggled with it in terms of the administration. We obviously there were some lawsuits in regards to personnel that just recently paid out some big paychecks. And I know that the former police chief, he's still, I believe, in a situation where he is suing the city. Then of course you have the service delivery of the police, and I remember, the early 1990s, and I did the diversity training for the Seattle Police Department, and just to understand the culture of police officers, and been on many teams. There is such a unique culture that police have. And especially the expectations of all communities, but certainly what is left of our African American community in Seattle, but in lower income neighborhoods, and some of the challenges, and also once again modern policing. The job, the role of the police officer is now different. Tell us, what are your thoughts, and as a Seattle City Council member, how can you address some of these issues around policing, and especially a person who will be citywide, but you live here in Southeast and Central Seattle?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think you hit on so many of the things that I care about, that our neighbors care about all around the city, just even in your introduction to the question. So I'll kind of try to touch on those. I think that was a great setup. One is when I'm out talking to people, I had some really fantastic conversations early on with neighbors, like just in my own neighborhood. So like sort of some advice you get is start with your neighbors, start talking to people. And so it's, what do you think? What do you think about where we are in policing? And what I heard then, and that I've heard in other places around the city, is really clear. We want to make sure that we have enough officers to do the job. We want to make sure that we have, equitable and fast response times. I talked to some neighbors who said, we called and we were so worried because nobody showed up after we called, right, for a shots fired incident. We don't want that to be the case at all, right? We want to make sure that, I often say, you get the right response for the right call and you get it on time. I think that is just so important, and it's just one part of the puzzle, right? So think about that. I want to make sure that we have a police force that is equitable internally as well, and is a place where people who look like you and me can work and thrive and feel respected at work, feel safe at work, can move up the ranks and secure promotions at work. And I think especially for I say you and me talking about Black folks, but I think especially for women as well, right? And the city has a great goal to have, as I'm sure 30% of the workforce women by 2030. And that's really important to me as somebody who has had my own personal experiences with racism and sexism just throughout my career. I don't want that to be anybody's experience. I don't want to have women who are, leaving the force because they feel like they are, they don't have the same opportunity for promotion or harassed at work. And we've seen those lawsuits. So I want to get to work and be a partner, with SPD. And obviously we've got Chief Barnes as a new chief who's coming in with a great vision around, running the department and making it a fair and equitable place to work. So those are two things that are really kind of core and that I think of a lot. And then, as I talk to neighbors, it's also clear that they want to have those and also accountability, right? And you started that off with sort of thinking about like the complexity of policing with Black folks and Black communities, right? And so to me, it's not about saying we just need to do one thing. It's about really looking at it in a way that's comprehensive.
And I told you in a couple of weeks I'm going to be meeting with Jonathan Rosenblum, who was one of the leaders of this movement here in Seattle, and certainly he's very, very close and connected. And his counsel, Shama Sawant, and it's amazing because I like to consider myself a radical moderate. I have family members and my college roommate who are extremely conservative, and for me, politics is a conversation, and it's never something that you lose friendships or family over. I don't get that. Some people have, and I have friends who are on the other side of that spectrum as well. They are as liberal and as progressive, and hopefully in my show and in my life, I've been able to bridge some of that. But one of the things that I certainly will talk to Jonathan about, and I'm going to talk to you about, is that I felt that Councilmember Sawant, especially for progressive communities and the voice that she had as being a socialist city council member, but also for communities of color, she bastardized the police force. I have always known. I think about it. I saw Nelson Washington this weekend at a community celebration, and his father was a longtime police officer here, and I think about Black police officers in our community and the role that they had with us and the role that they have helped raising us, and they kept us out of trouble. And I feel that the police, police outside of the obvious aspect of it, because you are dealing with negative situations, it's a great job for a young person. And we used to have officer friendliness program where the police would come and talk to us at schools, and Pat Fitzsimons coming around and handing out books, how to win friends and influence people, trying to recruit young Black people. And now I feel that the position has been completely bastardized in the form that why would you do that? And I think that Shama Sawant, with her rhetoric, with her attack on the pay scale, and also just some of the things that she did really made the position look very bad. And I'm just wondering, what can we do to repair? And I have people who told me, you have to, as a Black person, you have to hate yourself to join the police force. And I said, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that it's an outstanding job. It's a job where you can really do a lot of community good. And I'm wondering, what do we do? Number one, do you feel that it needs repair, which I think it does? And number two, how do we change the perception of the police force to have young people want to, and women, like you said, 30% women, how do we get young women to want to consider that to be a career?
Okay, great. Another good, juicy question. I love it. Okay, so
that's what we love, long form conversation.
It's really wonderful. And I love that I can actually hear the narrative and the story as in the conversation. So I really appreciate that.
Hang on one second. Clemente, see, your daddy can't do a good job. I just wanted to get that out of the way. Just wanted to do some housekeeping.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay. I want to be like, talk to Miles now. We should just have Clemente's dad and Miles's mom with our monikers on here. So when I decided that I was going to run for office, I was like, one of the things about me is I'm like a deeply and then like an inherently curious person, and I know what kind of work and professional experience I have, and I also know what I need to learn. So kind of made it a priority, like I was saying before, to reach out to people talking about public safety, but also to reach out to people who were either currently or former officers, to make that part of my own like learning, right? And not just like reading the things and talking to people in groups, but just talking to people who've done the job. And that's going to be, that's going to continue for me. I'm trying to make sure that I talk to people from around the city. And then I've gone to public safety and community meetings in different districts around the city where you have, different kinds of officers who are there. You have some of the communities, I'm going to get the word wrong here, the CSOs, the community safety officers. You might have some detectives. You might have some people who are, managers, et cetera. And so the reason I give you that is that I think it's important that we learn from not just people who are having experiences interacting with police, but from people who are serving or have recently served on the force about what it is that we can do, right? And that we're learning from the lawsuits that we've had, that we listen to what that tells us about the culture shift. And that, for me, it's about approaching it with an attitude that's about problem solving and not about finger pointing. And it's about, like I said, being able to work collaboratively with other council members and work collaboratively with Chief Barnes, community stakeholders, the Community Police Commission. It's obviously a few weeks ago, Seattle appealed to be released from the consent decree. So that's a possibility that release is coming up, soon, depending.
What do you think? Do you think it needs to be released from the consent decree?
I'm curious to see. I think that we need to do more on accountability. I don't think that there's, whether or not we get released from the consent decree, it's not mission accomplished, right? And I think we know that it's not mission accomplished, as we've just talked about. We still have more work to do there's the part that you're bringing up, right, in terms of making sure that council continues to have a positive relationship with our police force and our police officers. There's making sure that we have, safety inside the department, right? And making sure that, so I think there's still more work to do, regardless of whether or not the city is released from the consent decree. I feel like I missed a part of your juicy question in there as I kind of circled a corner, but
just what do we need to do to change the perception of being a police officer? Why would a young woman, why would a young Black woman, why would a young Latino boy want to be a police officer?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think some of it is going to be about how we are clear about the environment and the place to work, right? People want to have great jobs. They want to come to work and feel respected. They want to also serve their community. I'll say I was actually out at I got to visit a summer camp recently, and there was a young person there. And she was like, I was asking them, what do you want to do when you grow up? And she was like, I want to be a canine officer. I mean, just super specific, right? And I think where that came from, I was talking to her, she's like, I love dogs, I want to help people. And I think we want to make sure that we continue to foster that spirit of service in young people, and that they can see that job as a way to have that and to perform that service, right? I think that's really important.
Have you met Chief Barnes yet?
I have not met Chief Barnes yet. I look forward to doing so.
Have you met former Chief Best?
When I was at City Hall, not since I've been on the campaign trail.
So let me ask you this about the progressives who just did well in this election. I remember when I ran for the appointment for the city council, just a fleeting moment. And I love to I tell stories about that, but. When I ran for that was 2024. It was January 2024, right? Yeah. So I'm in this and Tanya Wu was the one who won. And but when we were in those conversations, and I knew that Rob Saka, and I knew that Kathy Moore, and I knew that Kettle, and I knew that Tanya, and they had said, they had folks who had kind of built a little bit of a coalition. And when they were elected, obviously Tanya had been with them and was part of that coalition, and they chose Tanya to strengthen their coalition. And unfortunately, she was not successful when she ran against Alexis Mercedes Rank. But once again, that kind of triggered the progressive, I believe, that progressive conversation. Are you guys kind of doing that now? You have Katie Wilson, you have Erica Evans, you have yourself. In many respects, after I had a chance to speak with him, Eddie Lim. Are you all kind of doing anything behind the scenes? Are you kind of meeting? Are you kind of communicating with each other? Are you supporting each other?
You know what's great about being a candidate is that there is just definitely this camaraderie or something between candidates. But I think that from my experience is that is extended far beyond the candidates that you've just listed. It's been, people who are like, I did this before, let me know if you want to talk to me. People are so willing to kind of offer you advice and support. And I'll answer your question, but I'll say that's been one of the most surprising and like humbling and sweet things about this experience, honestly. And you've been through it, so I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, that most folks will just they're happy to offer a kind word, even if they're supporting your opponent, because they know how hard it is to run for office, and will say, hey, I'm so glad that you're doing this, and I really appreciate that. I'm running. I'm not running as a slate with anybody. I'm just running my own campaign. I was really happy. Erica and I did some stuff together in the primary, which was really fun. We did some shared door knocking and shared canvases, and talking to voters together, which is fun. We posted about it on social media, and I really enjoyed doing that with her in the primary. Maybe we'll do it again later on this fall, but other than that, we haven't sort of had a joining of forces. But I've talked to almost all of the candidates who are running against incumbents or who are not incumbents, and it's been really wonderful.
Let me ask you this question, Dionne. And I would hear this when I ran, because I was so young when I ran. I was 33 when I ran the first time. Then I ran for the Seattle School Board, and I just didn't do it right. I was kind of a jerk. I was thinking about the camaraderie, and I just thought I was better than that, and so I deserved not to win. I just maturity. Having said that, one of the questions, and I bristled with it. I bristled with it a little bit the first time. I was caustic about it the second time. I hated people asking, "What experience do you bring? What is the experience?" And I don't. Our government is set up, right? I mean, it's a representative government. If you were a baker, if you were a teacher, if you were someone, if you were a program radio station operator, the idea was we have a representative government, and whether we're in Washington D.C. or a local or at the state, you could take and in the state we still do it, right? We take a few months off, and you go down and you serve, and you write laws, and you engage in this conversation. Then you go back in your community and work what your position is. Obviously, we have changed a little bit, and also the perceptions of what it takes to do the job. And people have asked me, well, what has Dionne Foster done to be a Seattle City Council member? How do you respond to that when people ask, what has Dionne done? What have you done that makes you qualified to be a Seattle City Council?
Yeah, I think it's a great question to ask. I don't bristle at it at all. So I'm happy to talk about my experience. I'm really proud of both my personal and my professional experience. So, I have my master's in social work from UW. Go Dogs. And I'm headed I'm headed back there to teach students actually in a couple of weeks, which I'm really looking forward to. And my career has been in organizing, community work, policy, and philanthropy. And when you're doing that, you learn a lot about the city, you learn a lot about service. So I worked in City Hall as policy advisor for a mayor. I also served as a senior policy advisor for the CEO of the public utility, which, as you know, is a significant part of the city's budget.
A little bit.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
It's huge, right? I was in SPU, so you have SPU, City Light. So, I've worked in City Hall. I understand the policy making process. But I don't think that's actually, I think that's important, but I think it's just as much also about the lived experience and being somebody who, has navigated trying to find affordable housing for myself. I think, the lived experience of being a mom and raising a kid in the city, and you can talk about that more, but I've also, I've supported groups who are working on affordable housing, who are working on ensuring that you have that we're actually adequately addressing displacement in the city. When I was at Seattle Foundation, I got to be part of the Communities Opportunity Team, which is did we meet? I don't know if we met through that or not, but making investments and strategic investments, which was really similar to what the city does when you think about how the city is managing a budget, but investments in work that was going to develop more affordable housing, but also develop policies that are going to protect people from getting displaced. And I'm really, really proud of that. I've worked collaboratively with many of our state elected officials, and I'm excited to be able to bring that relationship to bear in the job. We have a lot of challenges that are unique to Seattle, but they're also regional challenges and things that the council needs to be able to work collaboratively with the state on. And I'm excited to bring those relationships as well as that experience into the job. I worked at the state level on I was going to say the wrong word. I worked at the state level on progressive revenue, which is really important. I think it's a key issue for a lot of Washingtonians. We have an upside down tax code, as you know, that makes it so low income and working people are paying a higher share of their incomes in taxes than many people who have a lot of wealth. And, working with people across the income spectrum, across sort of an ideological spectrum, on making sure we actually pass and defend our state's capital gains tax, which brings millions of dollars of revenue into childcare, early education, and schools. And so I'm excited to bring all of that to City Hall and to get to work for the city that I love.
She is Dionne Foster. She is running for the Seattle City Council position in the at-large seat. They call it position 9. She's running against Council President Sarah Nelson. And she has taken time to come say hello to us at your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Daniel, where are we at in terms of time? We've got 3 minutes, so I'm going to just, I will give you just this one question. Maybe another one, depending on how you answer it. You'll be going from a position where you have been working auxiliary to the Seattle City Council. Say you are elected, how do you plan on? And I love these questions because it's a hypothetical, but it's a strong hypothetical. How do you plan on bridging your experience in being a policy analyst and all of the things that you have that you shared with us, now being one of the leaders on the or being one of those 9 city council members, and also, Dionne, how do you build relationships with the other 8 to create sound public policy?
That's a great question. I often say that I think the way that you run is the way that you govern. So I am working really hard as I'm running for office to get to come have conversations with you, get to have conversations all around the city to make sure that I am connecting with people, hearing about their issues, hearing what kind of action they want to see, just sponging, taking things in. I think that's really, really important. And it's part of the preparedness, right? Is that public policy doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens through listening to people, responding, and governing collaboratively, which leads into your next question. City council, I think of it, we started the segment, actually, you asked me about sports and what does my son play any sports, but it's not a solo sport, right? Governance is not. It's about the team and the body as a whole. So, I've been endorsed by 2 of the city council members, Councilmember Alexis Mercedes Rink and Councilmember Dan Strauss. I'm really proud to have their endorsement. And then for other folks, I'm going to work really hard to build those relationships because I believe that we are all doing this because we care about public service, because we care about making this city even greater than it already is. And so for me, approaching making sound policy making, it's going to be a bit of relationship building with my colleagues, making sure that we, even if we disagree on a policy, right, that is not about, closing a door or shutting down a relationship. It's about understanding that for people who maybe have some differences in how we approach an issue, we're gonna have different thoughts on what the solution is, right? So I'm gonna bring that kind of collaborative spirit and really seek to try to understand what experience my colleagues are bringing and what they're hearing from their constituents and what I'm hearing from constituents, and work together so that we can solve our challenges.
Bringing a collaborative spirit. When you probably see this, we will probably have about anywhere from 7 to 6 to 7 weeks left in the campaign. So first of all, we want to thank Dionne for taking the time to come and meet with us. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on what you were able to accomplish in the primary. And we just want to say from the Rainier Avenue Radio perspective, we always appreciate it when candidates take the advantage and take the time to come down and see us. So we appreciate that, and thank you so much for taking the time to really give us a real in-depth look at who you are. We appreciate that so much, and we wish you the best of luck over the next 6 weeks. And we hope this is going to be a profitable journey for you, profitable in terms of your experience and in terms of your life, and most importantly, as a mom with your son, we hope this is a journey that you will look back on, win or lose, that you experienced and that you had a great time with.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Dionne Foster on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world.